All right, so I've gathered what we needed here to get these pan bolts off. 1/4 inch ratchet, 1/4 inch 2-inch extension, 1/4 inch deep 10, and they're only torqued down, I want to say, I think it calls for 10 to 15.
But when we go put them on, we'll look up the torque specs. So
yep, we'll
look in a later
we'll get a
video.
torque spec for you, but
later in the video.
Either way, 1/4 inch drive is plenty enough for this. I mean, we're already broke free there, so don't feel like you need to use anything bigger. And then also we have our
something to catch
drain
the fluid
pan
in.
for transmission fluid here. And it'd be nice if GM would put a drain plug on these, but
not yet.
I guess not yet. So maybe if they make an aftermarket one or something like that. I mean,
With a drain pan with a magnet.
this one has a magnet on the inside.
Oh, it does have a magnet inside? Well, we'll check it out.
All right, one thing I forgot to mention before is you can see I started pulling the pan bolts already, but to do it, to bypass this this exhaust Y pipe here, you're gonna have to take this heat shield off so you can drop the pan down and slide it this way. And it's just gonna be these two 10mm bolts. You got one on top here, and then you got one on the bottom. And yep, just pull those out. And then, like I said, once we get most of these pan bolts removed and drain some of this fluid, we'll show you how to do that. So I took most of these side bolts out here, and then I loosened up these back ones. And I guess I did kind of consider using this here as something to hold the pan, so I can drop the pan as we let some fluid out. So instead of doing it from the front, I am going to be dropping the fluid from the back side here. But as you can see, I mean, that works out pretty well. And then once you get these back, you can hold the pan up, get these back bolts out, and then you can just kind of lower the back side of the pan and let it rest on the Y pipe here. All right, so here I'm getting the last bolt out. My gloves are a little bit slippery.
A little messy of a job.
Oh yeah.
So now you're gonna let the top down when you get that bolt out and slide it forward.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
yes.
definitely been ready to get changed.
Yeah, the fluid is a little bit stinky. Wow, that works a lot better if you use your fingers. All right, so we got the last bolt out here. I'm gonna grab that for a minute. All right, so if you want to walk around to the front here, I'll tilt the pan to the front.
I see. They really do want you to take that exhaust down, don't they?
Yep. Man, I was hoping more fluid than that would come out.
But yeah, you can see your filter right there, huh?
Yep. Yeah, definitely. We have some fluid sitting here on the floor. I mean, you can kind of get a idea of what it looked like.
You can smell it from here right now.
Yep.
Definitely.
So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if this is the first time this transmission's been serviced. I just hit 113,000 miles, so I mean, I'm not going to do a full flush on it. I'm just going to be replacing the fluid that comes out of the pan and then doing the filter and the O-ring and the gasket. So I'm going to maneuver this pan out of here, and then, all right, so as you can see here, how I have the pan twisted. I mean, some people might find it a little more easier to take the Y pipe off of the manifolds. It's 3 bolts on each side. But I kind of look at it as a little bit more work. So my point in doing this here is to, you know, if you don't have a lift, or if you're sitting out in a driveway, or you're doing this laying on your back, you know, you're not going to want to be laying on your back for a long period of time trying to break those loose with, you know, basic hand tools like a ratchet and such. So here you can see how I have the pan twisted. I did have to slide this gasket forward and off of the pan, but I believe here a little bit more maneuvering around and I'll be able to get it out.
So we got the pan off.
Yep. So We did have to go ahead and loosen just the passenger side.
15 millimeters.
It really wasn't too difficult of a task, but and then you do have to have a little bit of downforce on this Y pipe just to slide the pan out, but it'll come right out. But I mean, it does beat having to take off both sides and drop it completely. Although I mean, it might be a little bit easier, but at the same time, doing it this way really isn't that bad because all we have to do is just put the pan, the gasket, and the filter in, the O-ring. That O-ring that I'm talking about, that's going to be right up in here, and that's what your transmission filter slides into. Now, in some cases, you don't always have to replace them, but if you get a filter, it usually comes with one, so it's not ever a bad idea to replace it if you do have one.
And you said you have one?
I do, yep.
Okay, and here's the pan. Tell the fluid's a little burnt.
Yep, so the fluid is a little bit burnt up.
And here's the magnet.
The magnet does have a little bit of material on it. Honestly, I feel like that's to be expected, maybe. Yeah, I'd say that's about to be expected, maybe around 112, 130, 13,000 miles, especially with early model 2014 6L80.
So you know hasn't been changed in a long time just by looking at the magnet.
Right, or if it even ever has, honestly, but yeah, we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna get this pan cleaned out, and we're gonna clean off the magnet. We're gonna scrape off just a little bit of material that we got here, and then clean up the mating surface on the transmission. And then we're gonna break open the new filter, and getting that O-ring or that gasket out right there, that is a little bit of a challenge. So you are gonna have to have a smaller screwdriver and kind of pry in on the bottom. Some people are worried about hurting the side of the transmission housing, but it's a pretty strong material. You're not gonna chip it or damage anything if you're careful enough. But
so to clean this pan, we're gonna keep wiping it out, and then brake clean helps really nice, especially like getting the old material and stuff off. Brake clean and scrub the whole pan out good, wipe the sides out and get rid of what you can.
So yeah, and then we're gonna do that, and then we'll see you then. All right, so I did end up getting this gasket out here. If you look up here, I didn't have to use a screwdriver and pry from the side on the bottom and try to get into this metal housing here. I took this long pick and I was able to get it up in there just like this, and then over this rubber gasket, and then over the lip of this, over the lip of the gasket here on the metal part. And I just used a little bit of force and pulled down, and it popped right out. So
let's take a look at that oil pan.
Yeah, if you come over to the oil pan here, we did get the got the oil pan all cleaned up. I cleaned up the magnet, cleaned up the gunk just around the mating surface, cleaned the back side of it. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and, if you want to
put the new gasket on.
well, I was gonna say, if you want to come over here, we'll break this open. And
GM uses electrical tape.
no, I opened this once before just to make sure it was right. As you can see, this is their factory tape here. So here we're gonna have our gasket, like I was saying.
That only goes in one way, don't it?
Yep.
It's tapered.
Yep. So this flat part goes, or this rubber part is gonna go inside of the transmission first. Then AC Delco here on our filter.
Fresh new filter.
So there we go. We're gonna go ahead and put this gasket back in here. Just gonna take a little bit of this transmission fluid and wipe it around this rubber here. little bit around the metal part too, maybe. Well, here, let's use the one off the exhaust. A little bit dirty, but. All right. And I think we are going to need a socket just to be able to put this.
Make sure it seals good in there.
Yeah, just to hammer it all the way in there. Hold on here. Socket, it's going to be a 22 mil. I sized it up to my old gasket here. As you can see, if you fit it, exact same diameter. I'm going to take this rubber mallet. I'm just going to put it up against the metal lip on that gasket and get it back, get it all the way seated into the trans. You got those other lights there? All right, so I took this 22 mil and took this extension with this hammer and I lined it up and I was able to tap that gasket into there and I got it seated full, or I got it nice and flush there. So yeah, we're gonna get the filter in and then we're gonna put the pan gasket on. Well, we gotta clean up this here on the tranny yet, but
Just go nice and slow. Make sure you don't rip the seal.
yep, go nice and slow, make sure everything's lined up. You don't want to damage the seal. Filter here, we're gonna slide it up into this gasket. Oh wait. You want to make sure it's fully seated. Oh, there we go. I just heard it click. Oh, there we go. Had a little bit more to go there, but that's fully seated in there. And if you can't really quite tell, if you come over and you look from the top side here, it's got essentially like legs that stick up that'll hit the bottom of your trans here.
Here, let me get
so
in
you
there.
know that it's fully seated.
Oh yeah.
So there we go. We got that done. We'll just clean up this edge here. Then we're gonna grab our new gasket and put the pan on. All right, so we got our new gasket on here. Got everything cleaned up. Got the new filter in the trans. Got the new O-ring in the trans. All we got to do is go ahead and put this on the truck.
So now we're gonna have to bend that one side of the exhaust down.
Yeah, we're gonna have to pull back down on this side here. That's how we did it the first time. Like I mentioned, we did have to end up dropping these bolts just a little bit on the passenger side. But you know, it is what it is. So yeah, here we're gonna get the pan back on, and then we'll see after that. All right, so we got the pan up over the Y pipe here. And what we did is we just had a cameraman and I here pulled down on the Y pipe, and then it literally just slid right in. We just tipped this up and around that filter, and we're able to get it in. So we're gonna go and we're gonna put our bolts in here. And we're gonna look up
The torque specs,
and then see if there's a sequence that we need to do it in, which I'm sure that there is, just to get the gasket seated right. So,
but yeah,
we're gonna do that, and then
tighten the exhaust back up.
Tighten the exhaust back up, and then we're gonna get some fluid in it. We just finished up getting the pan back on. We went back through and we had to retighten up these passenger side Y pipe bolt. To be honest with you, this one must have had a messed up thread right along the end here. I know that it wasn't something that was caused by us or caused by cameraman or I, but I was able to get another nut onto that stud.
There's a 15 millimeter socket that fit on them.
Yep, so if you can see there, that stud comes all the way out to the very flush with the end of this nut. And then I went through and tightened up the other two. There's no problems with those other two there. And then for these, it was about 7 foot-pounds of torque for your pan bolts, and the sequence is in a crisscross pattern here.
Got the heat shield on.
Yep, I went and got the heat shield back on. Just finished up wiping everything down. Cleaned off the Y pipe. As you remember, everything kind of ran down into that. As I was down here, on another side note, we did catch looks like an oil leak here, and as you can see, it runs up and over past the backside of the manifold bolt over there, so that would lead me to believe that's a valve cover gasket. So that is going to be something in the future for another video here, so expect that to be coming up. The point of us doing these videos here is we just want to show you how to keep these things on the road, how to maintain them yourselves, and if you run into problems like this, you know.
So next is putting fluid in it.
Yeah, the next thing we got to do is put some fluid in it. But before we do that, we have one more thing in store. So another thing with these 2014 Silverados with the 6L80s are going to be, they're called a transmission thermal bypass valve, which essentially dumbs it down to a thermostat for your transmission. And well, in another video here, we have a direct replacement from
PPE.
Aftermarket PPE. We're not sponsored or anything like that. It's just I read and this seemed like they made a pretty good aftermarket product for this. So
we'll have another video on that.
We'll have
installing it and reviewing it, I suppose.
Yep, and we're actually gonna get to that here very soon because, like I said, before we do put the fluid back into the transmission, we want to go ahead and replace that while we're got the trans empty. So
yeah, this is the time to do it. If you're gonna want to do that upgrade, you might as well do the both at the same time because you're gonna lose some fluid through the lines and whatnot. So if you're gonna make a mess and do it all, you could do that upgrade there. So,
but what this is it's just it lets your transmission fluid flow freely through your transmission cooler, and it helps keep your transmission cooler. I'll have to read the exact specs and kind of give you like the exact definition of what the aftermarket product here does for us. But we're gonna end the video here, and we'll catch you in that one. And yeah.